Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Hello, boys and girls. Here we are.
Hey,
Joe, how are you, sir?
good buddy. How are you?
Good. We got a guest today, Alvin Xu from Maverick.
Yeah.
I did a really lengthy interview with Bob Baxley from Maverick, and this is a really cool platform. Solves a lot of problems. Very interesting in the context of our market maker discussions we've had on the show with Sean, and then in our Telegram group. And if you haven't joined yet, I don't know why you're not in there with all of these brilliant people who are teaching us so many good things, including Sean and others. Great discussions, great place to learn and just have a good time. T.me/mission DeFi, T.me/mission DeFi. Shizzy just asked me, hey, Brad, saw you in the ordinal space. Is he getting bullish, Brad? I'm checking it out, Shizzy. I have a potential interest in how the technology functions. And you're actually Shizzy's discussion with Sean in the Telegram got me off on a tangent from a technology perspective related to the ordinals and how they function and how they're stored. That's making for some very interesting thoughts. So more on that later. But yes, Shizzy, thank you so much for your ordinal advocacy, because your discussion or debate with Sean spurred on some curiosity for me. So again, folks, if you're not in the community, you're not learning. And thanks to folks there, I am.
Well, you know what happened when I was at BTC 2023? I heard this announcement that BitBoy was coming down Ordinal's alley, and everybody went flocking over their audience, and it was actually Brad. It was actually Brad over there swinging his shirt around and kicking stuff and talking about this Ordinal stuff is just rocking it. So Brad is drinking the Kool-Aid, Shizzy.
I'm surprised he didn't get shot there, man. What the hell? I can't believe he would show up at the Bitcoin conference.
You know what was interesting? I saw a lot of I watched some big argument on stage at one point. But then, when I was talking to say whoever runs the conference, the media group, BTC Media and others, I mean, a lot of people are coming out neutral, and a lot of people kind of have Sean's attitude. If it's, good for the chain, blah, 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 who cares? It'll survive or it won't. It's not, kind of the real purist. I didn't see that out in force. Let's put it that way.
I didn't know it, but there was actually an Ordinals conference going on there at the same time. So there was a separate Ordinals 2023 conference going on. That's what they were discussing. And Sean says, Brad and BitBoy, dude, I ain't comfortable with that image in my mind. I can't believe, look, of all the places for BitBoy to go to the place where it's a gathering of people who think that anything except Bitcoin is, Ethereum is a scam. But I mean, a guy like that showing up there, that takes some serious balls, man. Cause I can't fathom it.
But you know how it is when you're there and it's I run into it occasionally. I'm talking to someone and blah, 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 blah. Then you realize that everybody in the room is 25 years old.
Yeah.
Or 30. And you kind of then sit there and you're like, okay. And then, you kind of, the other feeling I got walking around there was that, I'm talking about the BitBoy showing up there, that there wasn't really, I didn't really feel any toxicity, man. I felt like everybody was cool about I just didn't feel it, any negativity. So, to me, I'm kind of maybe this is just another thing being overblown out there in the desire to create, strife and arguments. But, to me, I got the impression that, when people are inviting you to the Cardano party, it's at a Bitcoin conference, you're kind of and these are people that are part of the Bitcoin conference. I was kind of wow, man, this is kind of opened up a little bit here. So
what the hell?
So I don't know, man. It was hard to gauge. I don't, it was the first one I had gone to. Yeah, I know it is pretty bizarre. So you know what it Cardano is, and ordinals basically.
It's do you know what who your fucking market is? I mean, seriously, why would you spend money marketing at a fucking Bitcoin conference? I don't get it. I mean, there's plenty of EVM compatible chains you could go market in the world of. I don't get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't like they were big sponsors or anything. One of the guys who, one of the guys who will say, I minted my first coin in 2012, something like that. Those types of guys was like inviting me to a Cardano conference. And I was kind of just sort of, flabbergasted basically that came out of his mouth next, kind of thing. I could see like, hey, let's go check out this NFT conference, something like that, but I was just kind of surprised that it was another, disciple type thing, where, you've got a supreme leader and all of that. It just didn't, I don't know. It's just crazy. And then there's this other section there that I didn't notice of these things. It's like a dead show thing. It's like there's this sort of like something alley where you kind of go down it and there's different shirts made and, Bitcoin art and Bitcoin wipes and Bitcoin this, it's all kind of like if you were at a Mary Kay show kind of thing, let's say, or a Tupperware thing. It was kind of like,
all the merch.
So I see kind of the community angle of it that I've, always kind of not really paid enough attention to. And I often forget that there is a social movement within there too. That's kind of been subsumed by a lot of other stuff, but it's not the vast majority of it, but it's definitely a significant, like dead show type element within it. I don't know if you ever followed the Dead at all when you were younger, or went to any concerts.
Dude, please.
I kind of I see stuff like that at these conferences that I just didn't anticipate. I don't know.
Speaking of the Dead, you know who this is?
I don't know what's the picture taken?
That is the guy
that's you?
Some will call him a revolutionary that started Bitcoin down the road of commerce, and others would call him a complete fucking idiot. But he's the guy that spent 10,000 Bitcoin 13 years ago today on 2 pizzas. Now worth $268 million. But I read an article that said that after that, he spent thousands and thousands of more Bitcoin on other commerce applications trying to get commerce going. And you look, at that time, you had no idea what was going to happen with fucking Bitcoin, right? But at the same time, this idea of continuing to burn through to make commerce transactions also kind of you have to respect the fact that he was really trying to push Bitcoin being spent, right? And so he wanted to set an example. So, but
wasn't there something about him too? Didn't he technically embezzle that Bitcoin? I thought I saw something somewhere that he took it out of company funds.
I've never heard
something like that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, not in a negative way, like he was stealing, because obviously he was buying pizzas for the dev team. But there was somebody making a joke about it, how he came out of company funds.
By
so
the way,
now somebody could be like, dude, where's my 250 million?
Sean said most Bitcoiners are agnostic on ordinals. The chain allows it, then it's allowed. The rest is crypto Twitter algo wars. Sean also said he's also the first guy who did GPU mining. 10,000 Bitcoin was a good thing at the time. And hey, he still has a stack. I hope he still has a stack. I really hope he's like a filthy, wealthy dude, because he deserves it, right? I mean, he set an example that 13 years later, we're still commemorating. Right. And it makes people think about spending Bitcoin. And that's a good thing. And, we all know Sean is living on Bitcoin. So also setting an example every day that he, every time he buys a new investment there in Ireland, he's going to be thinking about what that might be worth someday. So you got to appreciate it.
I can't wait till he gets his estate and everything, and he takes formal estatehood status there.
There you go.
Maybe buys a couple of lordships or something. Could raffle one off to somebody else on the DeFi Lunch community.
That's great. Any other news from Bitcoin Miami?
I thought it was interesting. I met like 3 or 4 other protocols that around finance and let's just say crypto that were around the Bitcoin conference. But the interesting thing is none of them have tokens. And so I thought what was really interesting. Yeah, I mean, of course. But the thing is that it's like, one was doing, mortgages secured by Bitcoin. One was writing insurance for crypto companies. They're actually insuring like liquidity pools and things like that. So,
Wow.
and, D&O insurance and all your regular insurance too. But some pretty interesting group out of Bermuda. Then, of course, then I met another group that's doing kind of a Robin Hoodie app. The group out of Bermuda is called Realm, by the way, RELM. Okay. And then met a group doing a content play. It was just getting started. It seemed pretty interesting, kind of a Robin Hood for crypto. And then I met with the guys from Maple Finance. They're actually here in town with offices on Lincoln Road. Sure. So it's kind of cool because a little like kind of a deja vu thing, remembering when I was like setting up shop on Lincoln Road, a couple of years back. It was kind of cool, and they're doing the on credit. They actually do have a token though, but they're doing the on credit. On-chain credit stuff and for institutional. So just a lot of, again, stuff that is spun out of institutions that may do tokens in the future, but for the most part doesn't yet. Maple does, but they came out of Australia, so that's to be expected. But the others kind of jumped in. So I see all this opportunity there, and I see all these new protocols, and it's kind of like the stuff that we've been digging in for all of us as a group for the last two and a half years or whatever it's been. These guys and gals have had very, very little exposure to this. Right. And when you start talking to them about different things, that we've all seen and done, you can see their eyes light up because it's all the same stuff that we've been talking about. That when these institutional guys figure this stuff out, that what they can do with, in a couple of hours or, capturing high yield. The difference is that they've all figured out ways to really de-risk that like crazy going into it. Uh-huh. So they're coming at it from a really de-risk angle, which I think should allow for them to be able to kind of via liquid staking kind of stuff and different things like that, be able to go capture that high yield for, an afternoon or a couple of hours if they want, or, more than that. But I think that there's, and there's a lot of money over there too. Let's put it that way. Right. So to me, I kind of came out again super positive by everything I was seeing. Not so much that I saw anything that was so revolutionary toward me, because I feel like it's kind of like 2021 redux basically with NFTs and DeFi and all this stuff now circulating around the Bitcoin community. But nevertheless, I found it encouraging just because it was money from a different source. It didn't kind of come in organically from crypto first, but it's coming out of other markets and into crypto in ways that we didn't enter the space, which is all positive because it shows legs to me. There's legs in the market.
Sure. Let me ask you a question, Joe. Did you send the StreamYard link to Alvin?
No, I did not. I didn't. So maybe we should tackle that problem right away.
I haven't had any interactions with him, so I have no idea.
I didn't either. I only saw the invite come across. Right, so
let me send an email. But I've got plenty of news to cover if we did not do that. I usually let you do that when you have connected us.
Yeah. No, I was just looking at the calendar today, and I realized that we have a couple of things we have to sort. This is an interesting one because to the audience because I met like the number 3 person in Maverick at Consensus, and she set up Bob for us, who is the more technical person, I believe, to talk about the the liquidity pool directional stuff, and then Alvin's the CEO, I believe. Who was prepared to talk about market and other things. So it was the first time we took 2 people, split them up, and put one on Mission DeFi and one on DeFi Lunch. So we're kind of trying to do more of that.
If not, we'll reschedule him, and then it'll come out post. Then it'll come out post the full interview. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, because this is a protocol you guys really want to I consider like the next wave type stuff. All this stuff we met at the conferences, and these all came from very credible referrals to us. And these are all ones that we're getting to know as well. But there's some real good stuff in these plays. I don't know how it all combines or what, but this is taking another problem, which, I mean, you spoke to him more than I did. I spoke to the other person at the show, but the directional bets on liquidity pools, and like, if you think a token, like say you thought ETH was going up in this fictional ETH USDC pool, you could actually bet on the fact that ETH was, or, hedge, invest based upon the fact that you thought ETH was going up. So
Right.
now you can take one direction of a liquidity pool and, based upon your insights of which way you think it's going, do stuff in ways that will, I guess, either mitigate risk or enhance returns if you get it right. So I thought that was another tool. Really interesting play, Maverick. And they do not have a token yet.
We have Alvin joining us. Yeah, let's get this going.
Nice.
Real quick, Shizzy said Satoshi actually asked him to distribute some BTC from the book Digital Gold, Bitcoin, and the Inside Story of the Misfits and Millionaires Trying to Reinvent Money. He was winning most of the blocks with his new GPU mining, and Satoshi messaged him to try to spend some. That's cool. All right. Alvin Xu, how are you, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Sorry about the communication snafu and not getting you that link sooner. We were both thinking the other guy did it, so apologies.
All good. All good.
Welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Excellent, excellent. I had a great conversation with Bob last week. Really, really impressed with what you guys are doing. That episode's going to come out in the next day or two, but would love for you to give us kind of the high level overview for the group. We've actually been having some discussions. One of the biggest members of our community is also a market maker. And so we've had a lot of discussions around it. And I really saw in this model so many unique opportunities for what you guys have built, not to mention a really beautiful interface to the platform. So if you could do a quick introduction of yourself and then kind of tell us exactly what you guys are creating. And am I pronouncing your last name correctly, by the way, Xu?
Close enough.
All right. So if you could introduce yourself and let's talk about what you guys have built and what you got going.
Yeah, name is Alvin, one of the co-founders of Maverick Protocol. So I was in crypto since 2018, was building ecosystem for one of the top 3 main chains back then. So that was sort of when I encountered DeFi and have been dabbling in different product roles over the years. My last role was the DeFi product lead for MetaMask and in Consensus. So we built the
Nice.
swap button you see on the wallet. So did around 100 mil daily volume back then, around 1 mil profit every day in a bull market. And that's when I realized, okay, DeFi is here to stay, whether people use it to airdrop or to use it to do ARBs or even retail transactions. So
Nice.
we realized DeFi is not like it's not like institutions or retails. What is really lacking is the underlying infrastructure, namely the AMM, automated market maker. How can we make it better, make it more capital efficient? We think it's still at the infant stage compared to order book models in the central exchanges. So that's how we basically started to build Maverick.
Nice. Well, and like I said, I think there's some incredible power there, and it gives people a lot of options. One of the things Bob and I talked about was the potential for treasuries and founders to manage liquidity with the protocol, to even massage and to maintain price ranges for a protocol's token. And that's one of the biggest headaches in the founders have to deal with. I've interviewed a lot of founders, and many of them have told me that the nightmare of becoming a liquidity manager was not what they expected for the job. So, but there's a lot of potential there. A majority of the people that watch or listen to this show do it on the podcast. But if you like, you also are welcome to share screen and show people, because I think one of the most powerful components of your system is, and I'll push people in the podcast notes to go to the video, but one of the most powerful components of this is this incredible interface you guys have built for shaping the liquidity. So I'll leave it up to you and take it from there. But if you want to kind of walk people through the product and what it does, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks. For treasuries to manage their liquidity is definitely a killer use case for Maverick. If you're in DeFi already, you are not supposed to be actively manage your liquidity. You might as well just do it in a central exchange, but that's sadly the truth for a lot of the DeFi hedge funds and treasuries to manually move their liquidity around on some of the popular DeFi platforms like Uniswap V3, for example, to achieve the best capital efficiency. However, in this case, you are spending a lot more gas. You are also missing out some of the greater opportunities when price moves just by manually doing that. So that's where we have a lot of value add as a Maverick. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Sure. Down at the bottom, if you click present, and then I'll add it to the feed.
Awesome. Let's see. Get a right tab here. Oops. Let me see. What is the... Sorry about that.
That's all right. Take your time.
Can you see my screen by chance or
no? It hasn't come up in the sharing thing. It did briefly, something did, but then it went away. So if you click present and then choose share screen there.
Oh, I see a feature you can actually preview your screen, which is nice. Okay, I see. Perfect. Can you see my screen by chance?
I can, and I'm adding it to the stream. Great.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you could kind of summarize the idea behind it and then walk us through, that'd be great.
Awesome. So you are at a page that is called Pools. So this is basically a vanilla sort of DeFi staking LP page. Don't mind the volume. The graph is a little bit weird today, but volume is 1.2 billion or something so far within 2.5 months of launch.
Nice.
But yeah, thanks. But one of the interesting pairs is called WST ETH. So this is a Lido LST pair. So one of the use cases we've seen, great use cases we've seen for Maverick is on those LSTs, because the price for the WST ETH is climbing anywhere from 4 or 5% per year, right? So the concentration of the liquidity actually, the price of the liquidity actually moves around, right? Currently, the traditional AMM, you basically have to manually move your price every 1 or 2 days to be concentrated around the trading price as the price moves. But for Maverick, everything is done natively, right? You just leave your liquidity there, whether there's a mode both or mode right or static, probably not static mode, but mode both and mode right, where it will just follow the price around. We've seen great capital efficiency for this pair, and the volume for this pair, although it's only 12 million TVL, is probably the best across all chains, right? We're crushing Uniswap V3, we're crushing Balancer, Kyber, and even for Curve, they have like 1.2 billion TVL for this pair, which is ST ETH. It's not WST ETH, but they're probably doing a similar volume around 10 to 20 volume for 24 hours, which our capital efficiency is way better. So that's definitely one of the interesting pairs out there. And
could you real quickly, Alvin, give us an overview of kind of the problem you were trying to solve, right? Because this addresses problems with kind of the standard LP models on Uniswap V2 and most dexes, as well as the problems with the concentrated liquidity in V3. And you guys have multiple operational modes for people that are providing liquidity. And I think those are really powerful for people to understand what you offer them, as well as their own custom models as well, if I'm correct in that.
Yep, you got it. So on a native AMM level, the difference between Maverick and, let's say, AMM like Uniswap V3 is for V3, when you inject your liquidity, let's say 1 million at the ETH price 2000, the next moment when ETH moves to 2001 or 2010, your liquidity just doesn't work anymore. It's basically dead liquidity to the platform,
Right.
and it doesn't generate any yield. And for Maverick, the native AMM, your liquidity concentration is supposed to be moving around as the price moves. So we use a TWAP to direct that movement, right? So now, at any given moment, pretty much, there's your liquidity concentrated around the trading price, which provides a way better capital efficiency. That's really on the sort of native level of the AMM. And now natural question will be asked is, with greater capital efficiency comes with greater responsibility, which is something called IL or PL, right? Impermanent loss
Right.
or permanent loss, right? So for example, this mode both, when you move liquidity around back and forth, you pretty much are only trading at the worst price as the price moves, as in the passive LP. So how we deal with that? We came up with 4 modes basically, right? For mode static, you can think of it something similar to Uniswap V3, where you can place your liquidity as you want. You have a exponential distribution where like Papery and Hopper basically said this is the best ROI for your LP position for like static mode. And you have like something flat, which is similar to Uniswap V3, and you have something called single bin where you can drag around to shape your liquidity as you wish, right? If you want to do price discovery, you can drag it up and basically guide the price to, as liquidity grows to the right price you're targeting. So that's mode static. Mode right, basically you are longing the asset. Let's say ETH USDC pool, you long the ETH, you want to do mode right, so that whenever the price goes up of ETH, you follow the price, but the price goes down, you don't follow the price. So you pretty much control the liquidity that's filling the price. It's not like a really bad price. Mode left is on the other side. Mode both is really interesting. After our launch, we think it's sort of a lower hanging fruit where it's perfect for pairs like stables or semi-stables, which is LST, ETH pool, because those pairs, the price volatility is relatively low. So really the IL or PL there can be very well made up by the transaction fee you are getting. So that's why you are seeing a very attractive yield for something like USDT, USDC pool for this one, for example. And this is not even the best day yet, right? So that's how we basically achieve the capital efficiency out there. I'll stop real quick, see if you have any questions.
That's awesome. No, I look, when I did see this, I was so impressed with the variety of options for managing liquidity around this, and based on kind of the user's strategic play with any given pair or pool. So one of our listeners, Sean, said, are you moving liquidity around price at a fixed spread, or are you varying bid-ask spread or estimating fair price?
So we move the price according to a 3-hour TWAP. That's time-weighted time-weighted price, right?
Right.
Time-weighted average price. So we don't rely on any Oracle or price fees because that is honestly very scary for potential manipulation. So that's basically how we move the price. Once the price is out of this current concentration bin, we move the bin around. Once the price is still within the bin, we don't move the bin, and the gas will be lower in that case for trades.
That's awesome. In terms of kind of your experience so far with users, is there any kind of concentration in the modes that you're seeing for users? And also, obviously, you've got some concentration in particular pairs, but I'm just kind of curious what you guys have learned about how people are using it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, naturally, as you see, we have more TVL with this LST pair, and it's because we're very powerful to direct LST liquidity, but also because it's easier to basically LP in this pair. If you look at the mode here, I would say majority of them is in mode both. And that's just because it's easier, live it and forget about it and generate yield kind of style. Whereas, if you have to think about, okay, what is the mode right? What is the mode left? How can I basically not exposed to IL? It's a little bit more complicated, but this is really a great opportunity for some of the meta protocols building on top of us, where they can build a tool that helps the user to hedge their hedge their risk and stay delta neutral with their position. So they're not exposed to any price movement, and they're just collecting fees out there. And we can definitely expect something or tool like this built on top of Maverick. As a matter of fact, we're working with a couple protocols to build this out. So definitely keep an eye out for more usability of this mode left and mode right.
Nice. That was going to be my actually next question. Is I can see like 100 different uses for people to make use of the capabilities in this platform programmatically and other platforms. So I'm glad to hear that's already kind of moving for you guys. One of the interesting things I talked to Bob about was how you guys actually grew so rapidly. You mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's been amazing. Before the launch, we kind of had this cute backtesting model showing people, this is theoretically what you get historically priced, and it's almost too good to be true, and people don't really buy it. And the moment we launched and we got a meaningful amount of TVL to really prove how powerful the AMM is, people just started to notice it and really think this is the next sort of alpha in DeFi industry. And we honestly have a lot of institutions or DeFi hedge funds telling us this is the best innovation they've seen in the past 2 years in DeFi, which is very encouraging. So we definitely see an interesting sentiment out there. And some of the smarter influencers on Twitter has been talking about us, obviously, and the integration with ZK Sync has been a blast in terms of getting the eyeball of the retails. So obviously, gas is not cheap on Ethereum, but it's relatively cheap on ZK Sync. So we're sort of, having a little bit more retails out there. So I guess those are all, contributing to the popularity of Maverick. And on the, I think, developer side, we just constantly talk to people, sort of evangelize how the technology works. And, we're working with several protocols like Lido, Swell, Anchor, and Tokmak, for example, right? And more to come. So definitely exciting time for us.
Well, I mean, look, you guys solve kind of the widely known but not much discussed problem in the space is that nobody was making money providing liquidity, right? And then you come on the scene with a solution that actually makes it possible to actually make money. And so I think that certainly that makes a lot of sense. I also I think that you guys drove a lot of initial kind of volume for the swaps via aggregators. Is that correct as well?
Correct. So a lot of our volume are through aggregators like 1inch, Paraswap, CowSwap at the moment. And that's really interesting because every trade we get every trade by the competition, by winning the competition with Uniswap, Curve, balancer out there, right? So that's sort of the bare minimum kind of trade we get per day. We believe as time goes by, more retails trade on our native UI, we'll have a sort of better trading volume than now even.
Nice. Are you expecting to go to other layer 2s and other L1s with the platform, or kind of is this where you're going to hang out for now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So we're actively thinking about it. So back in the days, in MetaMask swap, they had a rule where it's called like 98% dominance, where whatever chain they see is sort of making their dominance less than 98%, they're launching on that chain. I think to us is the technology dominance, where where we see a good fit of technology, whether it's at LST or stables or really any tokens we see an interesting market fit will launch on the pool, will launch on the chain. So short answer is yes.
And I mean, I think the beauty of the model is that you're not dependent on the existing dominant activity on a given chain, because the power of the platform is it has the ability to drive activity to a chain, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying you're like, you can bring a chain back from death, but I certainly think that there's a lot of potential there to revive and or grow an existing platform because you bring so much capability to solving both sides of the problem. And I think that's really powerful. When we started off, we were talking about kind of liquidity management for projects and or treasury management. Can you kind of talk to that use case a little bit in terms of what treasuries and I mean, what DAOs could possibly do utilizing the platform to handle their liquidity and manage where their price of their tokens ends up?
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting example is LUSD. So, they're one of the top stablecoin projects out there, and they've they've been experimenting on top of us by sort of placing the liquidity in a really interesting shape, which on this side is sort of sliding a little bit faster, sliding a little bit slower than this side, so that they can see basically how this help with their price and also the liquidity. So
Right.
we not only here, but they're also on boosted position, I believe, and they're experiencing something similar here. So,
Well, and that's the nature of their token, right? Because it always kind of, it's always on the upside of $1 for the most part, and so it makes sense for how they're thinking about managing the liquidity on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're usually a little bit above $1. So that's they're really smart people. They've been experimenting on this, and that's how like they came up with this really bizarre shape, sort of liquidity, which is really interesting and really cool.
But the bottom line is that really gives protocols, whether they're a stable coin or not, the ability to kind of, especially as you guys grow, to support the liquidity and the price range that they'd really like to see their tokens stay within. Obviously, they can't completely manipulate the price, but they can certainly support it heavier, maybe at a bottom side range or whatever for them. So for me, I think that potentially represents huge amounts of volume coming into you guys as protocols start to experiment with this and come on board to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great insight. I think just to add on to that, an interesting example. Let's say maybe not LUSD, but a newer project, stablecoin or LST project, where they see the price is off the peg, right? Let's say they need more of the USDC, right? Now,
Right.
in a more like traditional way of incentivization, you basically incentivize on both sides of the pool, where you basically build more liquidity potentially on the liquidity you actually don't want, which is LUSD. And the depegging will go further worse. But for Maverick, you can actually incentivize a mode, let's call USDC only, and move left. So now you truly incentivize single-sided liquidity, and you sort of encourage the liquidity to move left to sort of solve the depegging problem. I think we think that is really powerful, and basically every project we talked to, they really resonated with this sort of utility we're providing, and we do see this position. Adoption is going to be pretty significant very soon.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, I could theoretically see that there's like this dynamic management for them of, hey, we want to make sure we're maintaining this range. And so we're going to incentivize this way versus incentivizing that way. And that having a ton of potential, almost on the fly, or at least dynamic or automatically with utilizing your API.
Absolutely.
So what are there other use cases that you guys didn't expect coming into this, or things that people are doing with the platform that you weren't quite expecting? And the other question I had was, in terms of the pairs, is this a permissionless system? Are you guys kind of reviewing things now at this early stage? What's the process for folks that are providing the liquidity pairs you're providing?
Yeah. So in terms of things we didn't expect, I will say a lot. We honestly don't really know the full potential of this, and we'll learn new things every day from some of the whale LPs or scaled LPs that they wish they could do, but now they can do a Maverick, or something they just see really interesting, they want to experiment with.
Right.
I think liquidity like this distribution is definitely one, and we're seeing people trying to incentivize on some of the bizarre sort of modes or positions just because of their individual needs of the token, right? So some of them, they want to basically stake one-sided and letting the other side to match because APR is really good, right? For example, Pepe, some of the LPs be like, okay, I want to stake Pepe and I want USDC to match it, and something like that, right? So I think the gist of it is that we're learning about this AMM every day through more and more smart LPs or users out there.
That's one of my favorite things about this space is things get deployed and people have a general idea of what they're going to do with it. And then suddenly there's all kinds of things being built on it. Because I think something as powerful as this, there's all kinds of tools, there's all kinds of potential protocols that can be built around it. So I really think it's, to me, it's really powerful. And then in terms of, is this currently permissionless? Are you guys currently reviewing what gets onto the protocol now? How does that work?
Yep. So it will be permissionless. So right now it's permissionless for most of the major pairs, but for some of the newer pairs or less popular pairs, we do want to basically whitelist it for communication. So part of that is just we've seen some of the synthetics being delisted by Uniswap. We kind of want to just know what's going on out there, right? We want to be a little bit cautious. But if you, if you think you have a great project where token needs to be listed, please let us know.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's great. And the other cool thing I think about this project is that not only is it incredibly appealing to institutional, to projects and DAOs, but it's also something where retail traders, retail folks can come in and do a better job providing liquidity if they play it right than necessarily they could in other places. And I think that I think that you'll probably end up with some copycats around this model, but you've got that leadership role and you've already built up that tremendous TVL. But to me, that's a really appealing thing, is that this is something that can be utilized by almost the entire spectrum of the DeFi universe. And it seems like that's what you guys are seeing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting where, before the launch, people ask, oh, like, why does it work? And after launch, people start to ask, how do you build a moat around Maverick? It's just very different sort of, question before and after launch. So I think the answer out there really is, you can do business license and whatnot. I don't think, it just, you can't really prevent people to copy your code at the end of the day. But what we can do is to work with projects to build DeFi money logical, right? Instead of just sort of, I guess, just instead of like competitions building on the same thing, with the same code, that we really need like different protocols, diversity, building on top of each other, right? It's only like that much of liquidity now in DeFi. Hopefully we can bring the next trillion in. But I think if we can all build things together in DeFi, that's really how DeFi can, take a role to compete with CeFi right now as a whole ecosystem.
Absolutely.
So definitely working on that.
Well, and look, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to deploy, if you're looking at the original versus the clone, do you want to be working with the team that actually wrote the code and understands what's functioning there versus the team that copied and pasted and maybe made a couple of changes? From my perspective, I think it makes sense that you've got you've got that brand identity first. You've got this momentum, and it makes a ton of sense for people to partner with you instead of going the other way. So I definitely think that's a big part of the moat for you guys as well.
Well, yeah. One other thing. Hey, the other thing. Great funders, by the way, too. So Pantera, Circle, Alt, Jump. I mean, got great backing in there. So they're going to network you around all the other ones that they're in and their other rest of their portfolio companies. So I think that's going to help you with your moat problem or moat issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, any inklings yet of what's next? I mean, it's really new, so I don't know that you're probably deploying new versions right away, but I'm just kind of curious if you guys are disclosing kind of where you're headed from a path perspective in terms of features, functions, or products going forward.
So we're building the whole ecosystem, the DeFi Lunch, on top of us. So hopefully, the user experience can be significantly improved, and you see different protocols on top of us, whether it's lending, borrowing, leverage trading, or even perpetual futures, right? Kind of like sweet stuff to leverage Maverick. So I think definitely keep an eye on that front. We do have some exciting news to announce in the coming, I would say, a couple weeks or a week or two. So definitely stay tuned. Should be really exciting to the market or to DeFi at the moment. So yeah.
Nice. All right. We won't try to pull it out of you today. And look, I think I do think a powerful mode is an integration strategy, and it sounds like you're saying that you guys are really going hard after encouraging and recruiting protocols and devs to integrate and build tools on top of the platform.
Absolutely. We invite them to try them out by themselves, and if they like it, we'll talk further. So
excellent. Is there anything else we should know? Everybody should go check out the protocol at mav.xyz. But is there anything else that we didn't cover today that we should cover for you, Alvin?
No, it's a pleasure to meet you guys, and thanks for having me here. Looking forward to more news and videos from you guys.
Awesome. Well, I'll be putting out we did a really in-depth, Bob and I did a really in-depth interview. I'll be putting that out in the next 2 days. So I'll ping you guys and let you know it's coming. But again, really appreciate you coming on to join us today and show us what you're doing. It's fantastic. Congratulations on all the success.
Thank you, folks. Have a great day.
You too, man.
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
All right. Yeah, this is a cool protocol, dude.
Yeah, no, I didn't really realize. I forgot who was backing them. I did that quick, and also Gemini's in there too, just to throw in the Winklevi, that's them. But it would be hard not to invest if you saw this thing, because when you really look at it and start thinking about what's possible here, I mean, the fact that you can fucking drag and drop liquidity rules is just incredible all by itself. But the fact that they preset these models that if, your estimation on path of this coin, of a price of a coin, is one way or the other, you're going to be eliminating potentially a permanent loss and permanent loss. You're going to be able to track on what you think is the best strategy. And then they have a both way strategy that keeps you pretty safe either way. They also have on their website charts, animated charts that show how those different strategies work. Let me actually, I'll load that up real quick. Well,
go ahead, Joe.
No, while you're doing that, I was going to say, so what you're really doing both ways, like a straddle, and then you're like, long and in shorten, basically, in the sense of not hardcore leverage, but, almost like a booster of some kind in there, where if your liquidity, this is something I didn't really even know until I was talking to them at Consensus, but, when you're sitting there, you throw your liquidity in, I guess, then all of a sudden it just sits there, wherever you, I guess, left it. And if the price is moving away, you're not sharing any of the trading fees.
That's right.
So if you're like an institutional person, you would want your money to be in the middle of where all the trading was going on to get those trading fees on top of whatever else. And then you could bet price direction too.
Right.
That's what's really interesting to me.
No, absolutely. So this is an example, their animation of their mode right strategy. And you can see, like, you know, it follows the uptrend. It stays up here when the price is down, but then as it goes up, it's following it up, right? And so your liquidity is following the uptrend if you chose the mode right strategy. The mode left strategy, obviously, it's just the opposite. Again, following price based on kind of the trajectory you think it's headed, right? Do you think it's headed south? Do you think the market's headed down, or a particular pair is headed down?
Well, but also,
John, very interesting. Kind of strange that this is new stuff in the DeFi world. I smell candy to steal, dude. I mean, this is like the predominant. Nobody talks about the fact that nobody makes money fucking providing liquidity, right? I mean, very few people do in DeFi world, because you're locked in a box. Now, there have been some attempts on the concentrated liquidity on V3 for Uniswap. Separate protocols have created automation tools to try to automate this stuff, but these guys have built it into the AMM itself. And yeah, I would suspect, Sean, that there's probably a lot of opportunities for you. This is their both way strategy. One that you're going to make less overall, but it will move on prices, you know, up or down. And then this is the static mode, but it doesn't move. So this is the one that's like, you know,
hold the stables together.
The normal way you would trade, because you think this is going to go sideways for a while, right? But it's also very similar to what, you know, Uniswap V3 is. So anyway, this is really powerful. Go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I thought that's kind of interesting is that, you know, let's say you were going to put up a liquidity pool, you know, I mean, you're a protocol or whatever, so you're throwing, you know, 10 pairs with, you know, tens of millions of stables against your thing. You know, it's almost like you could do different things, like say, okay, I'm putting in 100 million. I want 20% of it on the go right mode right indicator.
Yeah.
Or I'm feeling a little bit nervous today. Go ahead and lay 30% of the stack on, you know, mode left.
Right.
You know, it gives you an opportunity to kind of like, you know, and then leave 70% in the regular, or, you know, the straddle or something like that. That's, you know, it gives you a way to kind of boost risk at different points selectively across a portfolio of you know, the two token pair, in ways that I didn't really think about until Alvin was just talking.
Yeah.
You know, because we think of it as like, okay, we put ours in there, you know, individually, and, you know, we think ETH's going up, or, you know, maybe we think it's going down, and then we make that bet, but I think it's on the whole pile we got in there. But if you're managing a treasury, now you can do, you know, you can distribute it across those different instruments, you know, short, long, straddle, depending upon what you see in the macro market that day, or what you see. Well, I mean, you can't trade on inside information, you know, if you work at that company, but, you know, whatever you hear in the market, let's say.
Yep.
It brings another angle in that kind of, well, it doesn't exist, hadn't existed before, but it kind of adds in a whole nother diversification layer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you know, this one, because it's so tight ranged, WST, ETH, and ETH, I mean, essentially half your pool is staked ETH. So you're earning on top of the liquidity you're providing, you're already earning 4 upwards % more ETH annually on half of the pool side, you know, and it's earning 9.24% right now in their pool. USDC, USDT earning 7.74%. Now, we know there are higher options elsewhere, but to me, the way this can be managed is a lot. I don't want to say safer, because nothing's safe in DeFi. This is not financial advice, but the model and the tools they give you are superior to what you can play with elsewhere. I'll just say that. So
yeah, and think about this too. What if you could somehow, I mean, haven't quite grappled with all of the math, but if you could somehow combine this within one of the auto compounders, you know, like within Beefy,
that's
let's
probably
say.
something they're going to probably add from an integration perspective down the line. That certainly makes sense, Joe.
That's what I would think, because now all of a sudden, you know, our straight up Beefy play is, or a straight up compounding play is just take the earnings, from day one, obviously take the earnings, split them and put them back in.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, maybe there's an angle around the weighting of those when you sell those rewards and then you split them and put them back in. Maybe there's a way that you either influence the weighting of that manually or you influence it with Maverick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Just for everyone's notification, before you visit mav.xyz, some of you should maybe make sure you're securely securing your connection outside of the United States. What do you mean? So,
oh yeah, this is an outside U.S. play, right?
Correct. It's
yeah. So we all know what to do there.
Yeah, just secure your connection. Make sure your connection's secure. That's all.
Yeah, maximize your privacy.
Exactly. Sean said the risk adjustment means that the return looks interesting. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Joe, I'm done. You done?
Yeah. No, I mean,
good guess. Thanks for getting these guys cooked up, man. Because, like I said, the interview with Bob, we went really in depth into a lot of the possibilities here. So I think everybody will enjoy that. Niblet says always use a dedicated Linux box with VPN, kids. Absolutely, that's even better. But if you can't do that, but you can easily deploy your own VPN on DigitalOcean. So if you want your own box, that is a good place to do it. And other VMs have it as well. You just click a button, it installs it, it sets it up, and then it tells you how to access it. So that is an option. So
yeah, and also you've got the Estonian Palawian option too. So
that's true. Absolutely. Exactly.
But no, look, these guys, when I first met, they're like, I guess, number one below those two guys. She was just sharp as, I don't know, attack basically. And, I talked to her, I'm like, and she's not even the smartest one there. Is what I'm thinking. And so, but it really, being one that's played in a lot of liquidity pools, and done different things to get directional bias, i.e., well, if it goes the wrong way, then we just end up with more of these tokens kind of thing. We were always doing that kind of manually. And so now if you can do that, with the push of a button, basically, to me, that's kind of interesting too, because you could have like stack builder mode, which just keeps adjusting the liquidity to where you're like growing the native token that you want the most of versus say the stable or the ETH. So another one, basically we see like the hash note guys, and you already did hash note on the Mission DeFi side, right? Leo
interview. Yeah, I did the interview.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Is it up yet by any chance? Okay, cool. Sorry. No pressure. I was just but when I wasn't sure if anybody had seen it yet. That's all. So, like when you see what these guys are doing too on institutional DeFi, you'll be like, you combine that with Maverick, combine it with a couple other things we're going to show you in the next couple of weeks, and you'll see, despite all the noise, things are looking good in DeFi land. So
I tell you, I interviewed Leo on Friday from from Institute. What the hell are they called? The institutional DeFi play.
Hash note.
Hash note. Thank you.
Hash note. Yeah.
Interviewed him on Friday and really blown away by what they're building. Right. I mean, they're basically positioning themselves. And look, they have big backers, big institutional money behind them. They're positioning themselves of a gateway to DeFi deploys for institutional, but also as being protocols for institutional only, right? So they are putting themselves in a position of having vaults they deploy into our DeFi world, and they're, generating revenues for people, but they also are building basically an entire tech infrastructure so the institutional DeFi guys can play without the regulatory risk of deploying directly onto DeFi protocols. So really, really interesting play. The other really interesting thing that came out of that conversation from a regulatory perspective, Joe, is did you know that if you build an index fund with, I think he said 8, but we'll have to clarify. It may have been 12, but I think he said if with 8 different tokens, you're now under the regulatory purview of the CFTC and not the SEC.
You mentioned that the other day, and I didn't. When I was like shocked, to be honest. But it made me think. So then we could sit there and create our index of, let's just say it's 12. This is the DeFi Lunch index.
It becomes
and then
a commodity.
People could just write blanket size checks to come in there and take up chunks of the index that we then invest pro rata the index terms, basically.
Yeah. Now, who knows what regulatory hoops you have to jump through at the CFTC, but it's actually, I mean, according to him, and this was our conversation, and he admits fully he's not an attorney, but that their regulatory authority for their company is the CFTC. Because the reason I asked the question was, I said, well, I'm assuming you can only play with Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you are regulated by the CFTC, that's the only thing that they have recognized as a commodity. I mean, they say that CFTC says they think others are, but the ones that have been recognized SEC and CFTC as commodities are Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so it was very interesting for him to say, well, no, the reason we're still under the CFTC is we do everything as index funds / vaults and combine multiple coins together. And once you hit X number of coins, you are now under the regulatory influence of the CFTC, which is really cool. And I just wonder what it takes to be able to get, that approved, or if it just means, hey, I have an index pool and that's a CFTC that you were just granted that. Like, do you have to register it? Do you have to disclose it? Do you have to do all that? Or can you just create your index fund and boom, that's CFTC regulated? I have no idea, but I'd love to check in.
Yeah. Remember, I don't want to steal his thunder. But, remember where the parent organization is located, which city. Okay. And think about what, commodities and stuff. So I would bet that those guys, are wired in tight to all the little rules and nuance of commodities. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So guys, don't go start an index pool and just think you're not going to be regulated. Please, God, this is not legal advice. We are not attorneys. Niblet said,
but it's interesting. Yeah.
And Niblet said there's no such thing as insider trading in the commodities world. That's interesting.
I guess, didn't we do that in 48 hours with, Trading Places? Would that be Murphy and Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah.
Remember they were stealing the forecast for juice prices, I think, or something?
Yeah.
But I guess the weather isn't inside information, right?
Exactly. Niblets also said, so there are some unique investor risks to consider when dealing with commodities. Well, so do you create your index fund with one token and then have 11 other tokens you launch that are pegged to that token? And that's your index fund.
Or you have BTC, you do it like the old mortgage-backed securities. You got like 10% of it's BTC and 90% of it is shitcoins.
There you go. I was so surprised. He told me they have shitcoins in their index fund. And I was like, well, wait, how are you doing that? And that's how we got into the regulatory stuff. So very interesting. Anyway, those are coming up this week. Also have a fun interview I did with Corey of Uplift World, who now is doing something really cool in the AI world. So that's coming as well. And that's it. I have an interview this afternoon.
Nice.
So I don't know who you said.
Oh, cool. Yeah, good. I know there's some other stuff coming. We got, I think I saw the Horizon Labs guys, Rob.
That's this afternoon.
That's you this afternoon. Okay, cool. Great guy. I'll talk to you offline about him. He's just super cool. And I'll give you the background on them. And then did we ever what about the Casper guy? Has he been on yet? Ralph?
No.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him.
He didn't make it on.
I think
I traded messages with him.
I think he was scheduled, and it was the one I had to reschedule, and he's never gone back to reschedule. I sent him the link, but I don't think he. I'll
follow up with his PR guys.
I'll check to make sure, but I don't think it's currently scheduled.
And what about Toby Rush from Redeem? He's on the list somewhere, right?
I have Redeem at some point here. I don't remember when.
Yeah, he's cool. You guys will like him. We got to go, but you guys will like him because that's the send someone Bitcoin through your phone, and not like wallets and stuff. Just like you punch in their phone number and boom, it's off. Okay. And it works with any wallet. So, guys out of Kansas City. So always good to like give some boost to the heartland, right?
Yeah, Absolutely. All right, let's roll, Joe.
Cool.
Thank you,
Cheers,
everybody.
buddy.
Thank you, Niblets. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Shizzy, for participating today. And Chuck, we appreciate you guys being here. We love and appreciate everybody that listens and watches. Please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you give us a quick review if you get a chance, and subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe, click the little bell so you get notified, and make sure you smash the thumbs up so that you boost us in the algorithm. And if you haven't yet, you're missing out on great conversations with people like Sean and Chuck and Shizzy and Niblets, all in the Telegram community, t.me/Mission DeFi, t.me/Mission DeFi. Look, it doesn't cost you anything, and you can join and then bail if you don't like it. But I'm telling you, you're going to get a lot out of it. So get in there and join. Airdrop activity is picking up in that channel. So all kinds of good stuff you're missing out on if you're not there. So come join us. Thank you very much, Joe. I hope you have a great afternoon.
You too, buddy. And everybody else, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right, man. Bye.